Hi, my name is Tulabi, and I think, or at least I'd like to think, that I know a little bit more about the college application process than the average high schooler, maybe. So I'm here sharing my tips and tricks and any kind of useful information that I can think of with you guys to help this be as painless of a process as possible, because we all know it is painful. So today, you probably already know from the thumbnail, but I will be reading my essays for Columbia. And I'm not going to Columbia University, but I did get in, and so I feel like I'm somewhat qualified to read my essays and say that this is an essay that got me accepted. So I'm here sharing my tips and tricks for the Columbia supplemental essays. So a disclaimer, obviously, since I'm putting my essays out there into the world, if you try to copy one of these essays, you're going to be doing yourself more harm than good, and that goes for any essay that you find on the internet. If you're applying at the Ivy League level, like Columbia and any similar school, colleges are going to know that they've seen very similar essays before, and they're not going to accept a duplicate essay, obviously, and they're not going to accept an essay that's not original. So while I am putting these out into the world to help as many of you as possible, I'm only doing this as an example of like the caliber and quality of writing that they're looking for, not to say mine's exemplary. It's just for you guys to get an idea of the type of writing necessary, required, or at least just as a baseline. With that being said, I know it's so cliche, but really creativity and originality is the biggest tip, the most important thing, because it's what makes you stand out. And I feel like in my essays, that's what I really tried to focus on, and that's possibly why I was very successful in my college applications. Never look at something you see on the internet and say, oh, mine isn't like this, so I'm not going to get in. It's not true. They're looking for something creative, they're looking for something original, they're looking for something totally outside of the box. And if your essay is like that and it doesn't look like any other essay you've seen on the internet, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm only putting my essays out to give you an idea of where to start, because I know there are so many people, myself included, that look at an essay prompt and think, holy cow, I'm overwhelmed, where do I even start? And I guess this video is intended as that point. Just to watch at the very beginning to say, okay, here's someone that got into college, I can do it too. And that's my ultimate goal, is for you guys to leave this video with the confidence that you can write like this. Because while I believe my writing is good, it's not spectacular. I'm not a creative writer, I'm not an expository writer, I'm a STEM person for sure, and that's reflected through my essays. So whether you are a writer or a STEM person or anywhere in between, you can do this, I promise you. You don't have to have a writing background, and I don't either, apparently. I just had a lot of perseverance and put a lot of time and effort in my essays. So here we go. I'm going to start reading my supplemental essays that I wrote for Columbia University for the 2019-2020 application season. So for those of you that follow me, you might be able to recognize that I got a new computer. And if you recognize that, I love you. My subscribers, a big kiss to all of you. Mwah. And if you aren't subscribed, you should, because I will give you a kiss too, for everyone who subscribes right now. Mwah. So the first essay prompt that I wrote was, list a few words or phrases that describe your ideal college community. Okay, my ideal college community embraces who I am, encourages who I want to become, expands my mind and my world, and exposes me to an urban community within a small, tight-knit environment. It is a community that embraces a small-town girl and offers opportunities and experiences for growth. It encourages me to pursue any and all interests and surrounds me with motivated, successful peers I wish to emulate. It expands my knowledge base through a well-rounded liberal arts education and consists of a diverse student body that fosters learning inside and outside of the classroom. It exposes me to life in a big city and immerses me in a biotech hub while still offering a small learning environment that fosters connection between peers. So for this first topic, I scrolled through Columbia's website for a very long time to try to get an idea of what they were very proud of in their community. And I feel like that really helped me highlight points that they were proud of that I would also love to be a part of, if that makes sense. So things that they really liked and I also really liked, so I could reflect that to them. So this essay says list a few words or phrases. And instead of doing incomplete sentences like the prompt kind of suggests, I decided to do a few sentences that are complete but not necessarily all connected directly. So in my first paragraph, it's really just one sentence, I gave a few phrases that I thought were general, but then in the next one, I took one sentence to explain each phrase. So, for example, I say, my ideal college community embraces who I am in my first line. And then later on, I explain, it is a community that embraces a small town girl and offers opportunities and experiences for growth. So I took that little idea and I expanded on how exactly Columbia would be important to me and unique in that way. Again, this is a format I used. I'm not telling anyone to use this format. I'm not encouraging you guys to use this format, just an example. But I think through this, I was able to take little pieces and connect them directly to what I thought I would really experience at Columbia. And I really wanted to give a genuine idea of what I would love in an urban environment and an urban community, because I do live in a small town. And I didn't want them to think of that as a negative. I wanted my transition to seem like a positive. So I made sure to say that in my essay, to say that I would love to transition to a new environment. I would love to experience a new thing. And I think doing things like that, turning a possible weakness into a really great strength through your entire college application, is such a good thing to do in the supplemental essays and even in your main essay. I know tons of people that have done that. So moving on to the next essay, list the titles of the required readings from courses during the school year or summer that you enjoyed most in the past year. I listed Jane Eyre, The Great Gatsby, The Awakening, The Chosen, The Secret Life of Bees, The Yellow Wallpaper, Their Eyes Were Watching God, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, The Grapes of Wrath, and The Crucible. So I didn't read the names of the authors that I listed, but I did write them, and I'm terrible at pronouncing names, so I just skipped over it. But I would recommend writing last names and first names in your list. So I go to a public school. We don't do a ton of required reading. So I ended up listing all of the books that I really, really loved and also was kind of neutral about. I didn't list anything I absolutely hated, of course, but I was kind of lenient on what enjoyed most meant, because in a way I felt that I was at a disadvantage because we didn't have as many required readings. But for this question, I really don't think that it's the most important thing. I think they just want you to list titles of books that you read in school recently to kind of prove that you're reading in school, I guess. I don't think they're going to judge you based on the kinds of books your school makes you read. So for this one, just list some books. Don't overthink it. It's not really super complicated. This next one, though, I feel is much more important because these are the books you read for pleasure that you enjoyed most in the past year. I think this is super important. I would say it's 5 times more important than the last list because this is your choice. The last books were obviously not your choice. So for these, I listed Complications, A Surgeon's Guide to an Imperfect Science, The Red Rising Trilogy, One Up on Wall Street, The Only Woman in the Room, Why Science is Still a Boys' Club, and Deadly Feasts, The Prion Controversy, and The Public's Health. So these were books that I have read and I really, really genuinely loved. Now, you guys might notice that my list for this is pretty short. I only used 58 words out of the 150 for this. And that was definitely a risk. I do believe that a lot of my books are really strong, really unique, and they show a lot of range. I think that by starting out with 3 books that are so incredibly different, it's a really cool thing. You can also see connections through some of my books, like Complications, The Surgeon's Guide to an Imperfect Science, The Only Woman in the Room, Why Science is Still a Boys' Club, and Deadly Feasts, The Prion Controversy, and The Public's Health. So the 3 medicine books kind of continue a theme that I have throughout my application, that I love reading about public health, I love researching public health and things like that, and that I'm a very STEM focused person. But the other 2 books, the Red Rising trilogy and One Up on Wall Street, show that it's not all I am. That while medicine and STEM is definitely my spike that I know you guys know about and a lot of people have talked about, that's my area that I'm really strong in, I made sure to add other books just to say that it's not the only thing that I read about. So as I feel like I've shown, you don't have to use all 150 words. If you haven't read 15 books in the past year, you don't have to list 15 books. But I think Columbia does know that there are people who have read 15 plus books in the past year, and so they wanted to give those people room to write what they enjoyed most and all of those books. I, of course, did not read that many, and I don't think it's absolutely necessary to list that many. Okay, so next is list the titles of the print, electronic publications, and websites you read regularly. So here I did not use many words at all, even fewer than the last one. I only used 24 of the 150 words. So that was also a risk that I took, and again kind of shows that Columbia does not expect you to use all 150 words on all of the topics that they're asking you about. So here I listed the New York Times, the Atlantic, 538.com in parentheses, especially during and around elections, Food Network Magazine, the Pensacola News Journal, BuzzFeed.com, and Smithsonian Magazine. So I wrote about politics, I wrote about food, I wrote about local news. I live close to Pensacola, not in Pensacola. I wrote about, just for fun, BuzzFeed and things like that. Again, there's not much to say about these. My biggest advice is just to be honest about what you enjoy to read. I kind of had a variety. Most people probably have a variety of what they like to look at. Don't be scared to put BuzzFeed. Don't be scared to put Food Network Magazine if you like reading about whatever. I know a lot of people like cars. And things. I don't know. Put it. You read it. Make them think that you're just a normal person that has hobbies. I'm struggling so much. I keep on stuttering. I'm so bad at reading out loud. I don't know why.
In elementary school, my biggest fear used to be that stupid popcorn reading thing. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. I would always be so scared that I would stumble over my words or something.
Next is list the titles of the films, concerts, shows, exhibits, lectures, and other entertainments that you enjoyed most in the past year. I listed Don't Panic, The Danger of a Single Story, A Papal Mass in Vatican City, Panic at the Disco, Pray for the Wicked tour, Spider-Man Far From Home, the Newsweek article, 1 million cannibal ants trapped in Soviet nuclear bunker have escaped. Yes, I listed that. The Crown, The Bachelor and Bachelorette, and Conversations with a Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes. So, I feel like if any of my 150 what do you read, if any of those stood out, it's this one. I have so much variety of what I put here. It's absolutely all over the place in a good way. I hit myself and I'm bleeding. Shoot, what do I do? Ah! I didn't even know. What? Huh? 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 I'm bleeding. What? Huh? Okay, we're back. So, yes, I wrote about cannibal ants. Yes, they accepted me. And no, I'm not insane. It's a really interesting article, actually. So Don't Panic was a video series that we watched in my human geography class. The Danger of a Single Story was a TED Talk that I really, really enjoyed. I watched a Papal Mass in Vatican City. I attended the Panic at the Disco, Pray for the Wicked tour. I went to a concert with my best friend right after he took the ACT, which is a funny story all on its own. Spider-Man Far From Home is, of course, a movie, which was so good. Really outstanding. The Newsweek article, 1 million cannibal ants trapped in Soviet nuclear bunker have escaped. Let's just unpack this one. I read that article and I thought, wow, this is so funny. I love it. I read that article like 10 times that week. I don't know why. It was just so thoroughly entertaining to me. And Columbia was actually the last application I filled out because it took me forever to fill out these entertainment lists, I guess you could call them. So I was still typing these and I was like, ugh, I need more things to write for films, concert shows, exhibits, and lectures. And I decided to write down this article because I was just so thoroughly entertained by it. My recommendation to you is if you have something you find absolutely hilarious and entertaining and just so out there that you don't think any other person in the senior class of 2021 or 2022 or whoever you lovely people watching my video are, put it down. Seriously. I guarantee you no one else put the Newsweek article, 1 million cannibal ants trapped in Soviet nuclear bunker have escaped. I guarantee you no one else put it. And maybe that's the one thing in my application that Columbia said, you know what? This girl is insane. Let's take her because she's unique. I don't really care if they said that. Fine by me. It's an acceptance. Put your unique, cool cannibal ant story of your own in your application. Do it. I dare you. I also put The Crown, which is a super great TV show, The Bachelor and Bachelorette, because I like trash reality and I'm not afraid to admit it, and Conversations with a Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes. So when I was writing this, the Ted Bundy tapes were a super, super big thing to watch. And maybe it just resonated with someone at that little admissions table, and I will be forever thankful. That's the thing. You never know what aspect of your application is what gets you accepted. Maybe it's the entire thing. Maybe there's one little thing that throws you over the edge. So don't question it. Just write it down. Maybe that is the one factor that gets you accepted. I guarantee you it's not going to be the one factor that doesn't get you accepted. Okay, moving on. Please tell us what you value most about Columbia and why. As someone with interests ranging from neuro-oncology to Greek mythology, a liberal arts education where I am encouraged to pursue my diverse interests has always been a must. But what sets Columbia apart for me is the unparalleled opportunity for undergraduate scientific research. Being able to conduct research as an undergraduate is something I am looking forward to experiencing in college, and Columbia would be the perfect place to do this. Through the Columbia Summer Undergraduate Research Fellowship, I would be able to conduct biology-related research in world-class facilities. An opportunity like this would be incredibly helpful in preparing myself for the rigors of a career in neuroscience or the medical field, as those taking part in the program are expected to work full-time on their project. I would also learn how to write an original research article and present my own research to other SURF, which is the name of the program, participants, which would further prepare me for a future scientific career. The program is open to students as early as the summer after their freshman year, which attests to Columbia's efforts to immerse students in research opportunities that will prepare them for their future as early as possible. Another program of interest to me is the Minority Health and Health Disparities International Research Training Fellowship. That's a mouthful. As a Hispanic female hoping to major in a STEM field, this program, with its strong focus on diversity, would be the perfect opportunity to participate in a hands-on research project and continue to expand my knowledge base over the summer. The exposure and training I would get in global health through this program would be instrumental in my preparation for a medical career. All of my research concludes that Columbia is the perfect place for me. So for this one, I really just took the time to say what I wanted to do and flatter Columbia, which is never a bad thing. If there's something that you're saying that's really complimentary to the college you're applying to, that's good. That admissions officer isn't anti the school that they're admissions officering for. They're obviously very proud of that school, I would hope. Say some good things. All of my research concludes Columbia is the perfect place for me. Attests to Columbia's efforts to immerse its students in research opportunities as early as possible. You want those things that are really, really complimentary of the college that you're looking forward to really shine through. You want those to be really strong points. And so I know that Columbia is very proud of their research programs, and they have tons of them that really sound absolutely amazing. So I decided to focus on that for what I value most, because that's something that I believe they value very highly as well. So I thought another really strong point of what I did was that I picked out 2 specific programs that I would like to participate in if I went to college there. By finding those pinpointed things and doing the research into them, I kind of been telling Columbia that I am dedicated to their school and that I am willing to research the programs that I want to do even before I've been accepted. And it kind of picks me out as someone that is knowledgeable about the college, is knowledgeable about what I want to do, and I have a clear-cut path of, if I was accepted, this is what I want to participate in. And I think that's a great thing, showing them that you have the drive to do prior research and the drive to know what you want to do. You have everything planned out. That's not to say that you have to know every single step of what you want to do, but having that idea of, if I went to college here, this is something I would love to do, this specific program. That's a great thing to do. That's a great thing to write about. Next question is, for applicants to Columbia College, please tell us what from your current and past experiences, either academic or personal, attracts you specifically to the fields or field of study that you noted in the member questions section. If you are currently undecided, please write about any field or fields in which you may have an interest at this time. How can we know so little about something that controls our entire lives? Questions like this fuel my passion for studying neuroscience and behavior and exploring the medical field as a whole. Medicine has made enormous progress in the past few decades, but millions of people around the globe still suffer from brain tumors or degenerative diseases. I wish to study diseases and find cures to conditions previously thought incurable, to give hope where there previously was none. This year, I took advanced placement psychology and was immediately hooked. Learning about the parts of the brain and how they work in tandem is something that would further my knowledge necessary to become a neurologist, and is something that I take a deep and genuine interest in. Nearly every day I walk into psychology class, I have questions about the assigned reading from the previous night, a medical-based book I was reading independently, or scenarios from my own life. Every answer I get only further encourages me to pursue a career studying the brain. While I have immersed myself in classical studies since freshman year, I have only recently taken a deep interest in them. After traveling to Rome this past summer, I realized that I was intrigued by ancient Roman civilization and wished to explore it further. With classes such as race and ethnicity in the Greco-Roman world and Rome beyond Rome, Roman art and architecture in a global perspective, Columbia would be the perfect place to pursue this interest. So those were my essays about the specific fields that I listed in the member questions section. My biggest tip on this is to explicitly state the field that you listed in your essay. So I picked 3: neuroscience and behavior, psychology, and classical studies. I explicitly stated in every single paragraph the name of the field that I chose. And it's the full name. Instead of just listing neuroscience, I said neuroscience and behavior. I edited my essay to make sure I had that full name in there. You might be able to tell that I structured my essay a little bit different than a normal one. My paragraphs are almost entirely separate. In fact, I think they are entirely separate. While they are all together in one answer, they don't really have a ton to do with the other. There's a little link between my first and second paragraph, but my third one's completely different. It's totally about classical studies. So another big tip I have is don't be afraid to list 3 totally different subjects. I actually think that might work to your favor because it shows Columbia or whatever college you're applying to that your interests are super diverse and that you would love to study multiple different topics and possibly double major or have a minor. If you only list topics from one field, well, there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's advantage to list multiple different wide-ranging subjects. So while neuroscience and behavior and psychology obviously intersect at a lot of points in a lot of places, I decided to add classical studies since A, it's something that I am very deeply, genuinely interested in, and I love the subject. I've taken Latin since my freshman year, but I also think it adds a little bit of diversity to what I like to write about. Obviously, my spike is in STEM, but by showing them I would like to do classical studies as well, that's really something that it's almost an attention grabber. It's something that just makes me stand out a little bit more. Not every person that's interested in STEM is also going to list classical studies, but a lot of people that are interested in neuroscience and behavior might also list biology and psychology. So it's just another way that I work towards distinguishing myself as different from any other STEM major. Again, there's nothing wrong with putting 3 topics that are very similar to each other, but if you do have a super different interest, I would totally encourage you to list that. Alright, that's it for my essays. Just some real quick overall tips for Columbia's application specifically, and also things that'll apply to other places. Again, my one biggest thing, be creative. Don't worry if it's too out of the box, just list it. I wrote about cannibal ants, and they still thought I was sane enough to accept me. It's not something that makes me sound crazy. wait, yes it is, never mind. It is something that makes me sound crazy, but it's something that puts me so out of the box that's it's a good thing. It's not something that every other person's gonna write about, and that's definitely a positive to me. If your lists are looking a little wimpy, a little bit short, and not close enough to word count, don't worry about it too terribly much, but put in the authors or the speaker, if it's like a TED Talk or something like that. That's a good way to make your lists seem just a little bit longer than they might have without the authors. For those longer essay questions, flattery is a good thing. Don't lie, obviously, but if you're really interested in something and you really think the college has done a great job in it, compliment them in a way that flows with your essay. It's never a bad thing to compliment something that you really do enjoy about a college. Don't be scared to say that you have tons of different interests and tons of different subjects. I think that's totally something that you can play to your advantage, and that's something that can make you stand out. So if you have any more questions on Columbia's essays specifically, or honestly anything else, leave them in the comments below. I try to answer as many as possible, and on a lot of videos I'm able to answer all of them. So if you want to ask me anything, leave it down below in the comments.
Quick, I forgot to add it, but a quick plug for my other video. I made a stats video, so if you want to see my stats and extracurriculars that got me into Columbia and a bunch of other cool schools like Stanford, Dartmouth, Cornell, and Duke, Vanderbilt, few others, go watch that. I will link it right here.
If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see any more of my college essays and other things. I make other videos too, not just college ones. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Bye.